Again. So happy to be here with Kelly again, and so excited to really share our insights and hopefully your feedback into marketing. And, I know everybody has a different view of it, and that's what makes it so dynamic and fascinating, and how you can really apply marketing to your market. And with that said, like I mentioned, chat's open. We rely on you for relevance and direction. Let me turn it over to Kelly. Kelly can share a little bit of an update and what her initial thoughts on marketing is.
Yeah. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Marketing. I mean, we were just saying before we came live, like how interesting that we've alluded and it's been in some of my stories, but we've never done marketing, which is kind of interesting. So this will be a
Well, I'm
thanks.
looking for, you froze up just for a little bit there. Now
Oh,
you're back.
okay.
Um,
You
yeah,
wait for I think we got weather stuff happening all over. I know people who were offline all day yesterday because of snow and such. I don't have snow here, but it's cold. Um, not as cold as where you are, but for me, it's very cold. In any event, what I was saying was everybody thinks they know marketing. Like everybody thinks they've got a marketer in them, and it's a little insulting on an occasion because it's like a lot of us who have done this have actually got a degree in it and then went on and worked a career in it, and it's so much more than just making
mhm.
the document look pretty, which I feel. I mean, I've actually had people say that to me over time. so yeah, I'm interested to know what people think, because marketing has also changed quite dramatically with AI, open AI being out there. So many people are like, oh my gosh, this is going to make people who are copywriters lose their jobs, and so many other things. Or now I don't need a marketer because I can just use this for my content, which is not true. It's just not true. That is not the answer. It's a tool that can be utilized by a proper marketer or even a copywriter, because you shouldn't just copy and paste. You still need to edit and do many other things. But those are my initial thoughts as we go into this combo. And I feel like my internet may be a little wonky today.
Well, doing enough lives, you just never know what you don't know, and you kind of roll with the punches and do the best you can. And I think that's why consistency makes up for maybe accuracy or quality at times. And I think when you look at marketing, one has to really look at what is your market to begin with, because that's the first part of marketing is market. And then the ing part of it is taking action against it,
Yeah.
right? So, you're marketing to it, for it, whatever. And based on that, it really then comes down to messaging. If everybody has access to the same communication vehicle and access to the same people on social media, then it's like the process between getting to know them and getting to do something with them. And marketing takes that into account, trying to really, I think, identify as the listener, not as the broadcaster. What
Yeah.
is what do people need or want to hear? So what's your thoughts on that, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, that's such an important point, and I think one that a lot of people have difficulty with is remembering that it is about your audience and not you. And when you're so, and I know we actually have talked a little bit about this in the past, is when you're the creator of a product that you're taking to market or service, whatever it is, you generally are very intimate with it and have a difficult time seeing it from an end user perspective. Um, and it's just a fact, which is why you hire marketing people to help you create those messages, because it goes back to the whole thing of it's not about logic when it comes to purchasing things. We don't buy anything on logic. We buy based on an emotion of how it makes us feel. And it's about aligning that with what your product or service is, with the feeling that it gives your target audience to make them want to purchase your thing. It's the logic afterwards that we'll use to rationalize our purchase. Um, One of the examples I always love and grid it, I'm not promoting people go buy candy, but Skittles, their tag has always been taste the rainbow. You can't taste a rainbow, but
Mhm.
it speaks to our subconscious and to our place of our child, and we like that because it's fun, and that's a big part too. Is a lot of people want to overcomplicate their messaging, and it's like pretty sure the standard that you should always go for is a fourth grade level of content,
Mhm.
um, because when people don't understand something completely, reading it the first time, they're confused, and we don't like to be confused. And when we're confused about something, we turn away from it. Um, but when we're drawn in, and here's a part of, being in financial services for so long and doing marketing, that was always a big deal about with, because we have multiple audiences. We've got broker dealer, we've got advisor, and then investor. um, you can't make people feel stupid, because when they feel stupid, they don't want to purchase it, or put whatever fund it is in their portfolio. I just saw some big giant red box over
Oh,
on the anyways, so sorry, we got sidetracked because it took my attention, obviously. So just kind of finishing that part, it's all about the feeling of what it is. And another one that we talked about a lot is that the greatest salesman ever, the Joe
yeah,
uh,
yeah, the comeback.
Lombardo, something like that. Yeah. Um, because he did things his way. He marketed to his audience, and his he worked at a car dealership, and I don't remember which one he ended up with, but whatever first one he went to, they didn't like what he was doing and they got rid of him. And then he went down the street to another place and became the best one like in the country. Because he did things different of how he thought people would like what he liked. He knew he liked getting personal notes, so he used to send postcards, which I know that seems old school, but it was making people feel special, and it was about brand awareness. That wasn't really a thing back then, kind of, but it wasn't a real big practice. Because that's a big part too, is understanding. And I do think a lot of people have a misunderstanding about this. When you do hire, whether it's a fractional marketing team or you have a team on staff, or use an outside source, having the unrealistic expectation of, well, I hired you, so in 30 days we should see an ROI. And it's like, likely not, depending on what the overall goal is. And it's different for, I think, every organization. And this is something you and I have talked about, Don, that it's not the same for everybody, because they have different team, they have different things going on internally. Because human beings impact what a strategy would be, depending on where your strengths are in an organization. And that's kind of the part that I really love, is doing that discovery of seeing what's going on behind the scenes. And because a lot of times you find out where people think something is broken, it's not. It's somewhere else. Just because you have a pain in your right arm doesn't mean that it's in your right arm. It may be coming from your neck, and that's the same thing in an organization. Um, so those are my thoughts at the moment.
I think those are wonderful thoughts and based on quite a bit of quality experience. And what I look at is when you mentioned what clients may be looking for, that's their expectation before they got a chance to know what you can do.
Hmm.
So to be realistic about an expectation, one has to justify it. So it's like, okay, this is what you expect, lay out what are you doing? How do you plan on doing? I mean, before I walked in, what was your plan and what was your expectation that I could help you with? And at that point, being able to get to know the person, get to know the person's intentions, because the bigger element beyond expectation is the why,
Yes, that's
right?
everything.
What do you want to accomplish, but why? And if I
Hmm.
know the why, maybe there's other things besides this one road that may be a little more challenging and slow and tenuous versus, it's like someone driving in an old car and trading in for a new model. Wouldn't you like to just start with a really new car, or would you like to go through a refinishing or reconditioning on your old one And most people would like to move towards excitement, energy, you know, bragging rights to say, I'm into something hardly anybody even knows about. And it's so cool, like live streaming. I mean, wouldn't you like to wake up saying, finally,
Yeah.
I've got a competitive advantage. I've got the wind blowing in my favor. And I think you have to build that picture of tomorrow for people to want it so bad that they're willing to do what it takes to get there. You
Yeah,
know,
and just I think
but
that's another such an important thing, and that's been a few conversations I've had lately with others. It's like just because you have someone come in and give you a strategy or, ideas of what you should do tactically, what have you, it's not going to happen unless you do something. Like you actually have to do stuff. And that is one of the biggest reasons so many businesses fail, if not the top reason, is because they have all the information, but they fail to implement. And I remember seeing that in large organizations that I worked for, and they would pay tens of thousands of dollars a month for a consultant to come in and do something. And they would put together this amazing document by the end of the 30 days that they got paid, $15,000 for. And it was all this stuff we already knew. And it was like, we don't need anybody to tell us what to do. We just need people to do it.
Mhm.
um, and that is a fault. And I think another big thing that I've seen with CEOs and such is they want it done their way. And it's like, what is, I think it is Steve Jobs. I didn't hire you to tell you how to do your job. I hired you for you to tell me how to do your job. Um, because when you're just telling someone what to do, that's not a marketing plan or a strategy. That's just you executing. I used to refer to it as checking the boxes. All you're doing is checking the boxes on a task list. There's no rhyme or reason. Um, and the same things, or the data that comes back, um, is saying we need to do something different. Um, and I think that's a tough one, though, when you've got someone at the top that is saying they want it done a certain way and don't want to adjust, or working globally. I mean, that's another, that's a whole nother layer of things. And I'm with you, and because I can't scream it loud enough about the pitch slap. I
Mhm.
feel like because it's January, the end of the year, and this first couple of weeks, my inbox, it's just ridiculous. People, stop it. I mean, it is so ineffective. And I don't understand why more people aren't putting live streaming in their strategy, because one, it's a low cost to entry for sure, and two, it's not being utilized by as many people as you think. I mean, it's surprisingly low, and I know you know that the numbers from LinkedIn better than I do. But I'm just like, why wouldn't you try something different for your lead gen? Because we buy how someone makes us feel. You're not even buying the product, you're buying the person. So if I can see you on a screen, talking with someone else, how it's helped change, their business or their life, whatever it is, I'm going to connect with you a whole lot different than if you continue to just drip email me for the next 6 months. I likely don't even know who you are. Um, so I just think it's a way to cut to what should be the basis of any marketing, and it is about the relationship, with the audience. And you've got to create that. So to me, it's just a no-brainer. I just don't understand why more people aren't saying like, "Sign me up! I need to get this going." Um, yeah. So what do you think about that? Because I know you've got a lot of thoughts on live streaming and people's strategies.
Oh, for sure. That's why I enjoy what we're doing here every day. And also, more importantly, enjoy who we're doing it with.
Yeah.
So, if it was just a tool, if it was like a printer or a mainframe, you might, really appreciate the value and the benefit it gives you. But if it's really people who are along the same mindset and direction and are taking action, well, you're part of something more than attached to a thing or a
Yeah.
product. It's a dynamic, thought-provoking, process that you have the confidence that if you can't figure out, someone else will. or someone will find something you never would have looked for. I
Mhm.
know Harvey sent me something that connects all of the chat together from all of the platforms. That's what you might have seen when
Oh,
that,
maybe.
that flashed, even though I don't see many comments today. So either everybody's so involved with what we're talking about, or it's not working as well as it should be. But going back to the point of live streaming, I remember when, and I'm old enough to remember when .com showed up, and how many retailers poo-pooed it, said it was a fad, a trend, it would never be anything. People really qualified it as a redheaded stepchild, because everybody would just use it to get rid of their stuff and, just not show a lot of appreciation for it. And those people paid the price 5, 6, 7 years later. But the other thing I see about live streaming, and I see so much more the more I look into it and the more I dive into it and apply myself to it, is that you actually save so much time and money. Because in a traditional marketing program, right, you're sitting there and around a conference table with all the big wigs and specialists, and you're trying to figure out what your message is, how you want to deliver it, the media, and it's a whole production. And they put
Mhm.
together a beautiful loose leaf that's just gorgeous, full of really a bunch of fluff. And they charge you a lot. And then when you're done, they go out and execute it for you and charge you a lot. Well, the time you spent talking to them, explaining to them, and then maybe getting turned away from where you should be because it's not conventional or it's not the latest trendy thing, you could be directly talking to your audience and not just a 30-second spot or a 60-second spot, an hour with a guest, right? So you save all that time and effort because the key is getting rid of insulation, getting rid of layers of resistance, gatekeepers. And if you have an agency, it's like, well, I'm having a meeting with the agency next week and I'll discuss it.
Mhm.
And then they'll think about it and then they'll discuss it, and meanwhile, I could have just tried that message with whatever community I wanted. I could pick franchising people, or I could pick leadership people. And that's really what the event is. And, instead of feeling responsible or obligated or accountable for what you say, it's just sharing what you say and wanting feedback.
Yeah,
No one
and you
go
see, I think a lot of people, and I shouldn't say a lot, but I've had even in the last couple of years, clients that they take the feedback they want, which I find fascinating. There was one client specifically, and if he got a bit of feedback that he liked, then we had to change everything to go in that direction. And it's like, but only one person has said that. Does it really make sense for us to shift and do something? Which is also another, issue of knowing when to say no, or um, because one person, keep it, file it. I say keep information from any customer, but if you got it and you think it's so great, hey, why don't we do a little quick survey or a poll on LinkedIn and see what people are saying back, if more people are saying that, or if this is just a one-off. Um, because, I've definitely worked with sales teams that would be like, oh my gosh, Kelly, if I had this one piece, I would be able to close every deal I went to. And of course, there was always the part of me going, if you need another piece of marketing collateral to make the sale, you're not good at your job, because you should need no marketing collateral. I mean, think about back in the day when it was all truthfully at a bar with a napkin and a pen, and then things would happen, or on the golf course when there's no marketing collateral, um, and because it's about you. You have to believe, and you alluded to this earlier, it's about the why. Why are you doing this? You can tell when someone is selling, and it feels gross because it's just like you're just trying to make a transaction. You don't care about you're not trying to fix the problem that you think I have. And I know I said this on a show recently too, is I did one of the pitch slaps I got recently. It was paragraphs long, and it was saying all of these things that I needed to do for my business in order to be successful for 2024. And I was just sort of like, huh, you know absolutely nothing about my business, yet you know how to fix it. You need to get out of sales and go buy a lottery ticket because you know information via osmosis, which is something most of us don't have. Um, because you don't know what's actually going on. A lot of times, business owners don't even really understand what's going on um, behind the scenes. But getting back to the messaging and the emotional part of it, um, is having to, A/B testing is all over the place. People who aren't doing that, I don't know what generation you're stuck in because you should be doing that all the time. Because we can sit at a conference room table and whiteboard out a customer journey and think this is amazing. But then find out, oh my gosh, some of the ABs that we thought weren't good, but we were still going to try them because you should always try them. You never know, and it's for this reason. Sometimes things come back and they surprise you. Um, but you have to take that as input from your actual customer. And I think people do sometimes have a difficult time knowing who their customer is. Well, everybody would want to have this, or this would apply to all. Um, or going back to the same client that I was using as an example earlier, they thought their target market was, as an example, coaches. And it wasn't. Like they were so off, and it's like you thought, but they kept trying to sell it, and it wasn't working, and it's like because that's not your target client. And go back to the drawing board and have another discussion, and go out. And we've talked about this a lot too, whether or not it's advisory boards or mastermind groups. I mean, I learned so much from those. Those are the best because you don't know everything about anything. And there's nothing better than being around people that give you that honest advice or input that you don't know. And that would save you a lot of time instead of using Google, because Google can take you down a rabbit hole too. But
Well, it just shows you how many ups and downs there are to marketing. And what I would suggest, and then people, don't always focus, is qualify your potential clients like you do your potential service providers. So in other words, when you're looking for a service provider, you're like, well, before I give them any money or before I commit to something, I got to feel comfortable. And most people don't take that approach to future clients or colleagues because they're like, oh, they're going to pay, right? And they're going to do what I'm doing. But if they're not focused, if they're not respectful of one's time, if they're not aware of what something means to somebody, that's a misalignment and a lack of balance. And I think people get into situations that actually bring them backwards based on their need to be responsive. And the other thing is why not just go with what works with people who are working it? I always tell people before you sign on to a service provider for whatever service or product they're providing, ask them to show you the results of their efforts in that and when they did it, right? If someone says buy a Super Bowl ad, say, let me see your Super Bowl ad and what it did. And if people can't show you they're using or have used what they're selling, then there's nothing to it except their belief that they can get you from point A to point B. And you know what? Sometimes they take you all around the world and get you to the same place you started. And then you lost a ton of money, a ton of time, and a ton of distrust. And I think it's really being nichey. And I think that's one thing me and Kelly and Harvey talked about actually with Samuel the other day, is pick a category where you're one of 100 or one of 200. Not if you were to choose marketing, I guarantee there's probably 2-3 million, right?
Yeah.
Try to be number one in 2-3 million when you could have been number one in live stream marketing or number one in LinkedIn training marketing. And I think once you can niche it, you think, well, I'm going to lose all those people that could have come through. But those are the people who aren't going to come through once they come through, right? Because if you say it's an Italian restaurant and people coming for Chinese, it's not going to work out. Looks like Dennis is leading a parade today as far as comments go.
I think
Working
there's
care
definitely
works. Thanks for reminding us. Somehow Dennis is getting through. I see comments on the post. Agree is about the not the why not. And the other thing is helping yourself help someone help you. Agree
Mhm.
environmental business, the saying is still, if you are green, you are growing. If you're not growing, you're rotting. Yeah, you're so right, Dennis, because things are moving so quick, you can't sit still. If you sit still, you back up. Kelly, what do you think about really seizing the moment and jumping on something that could really give you a ride, at least for the short term?
I mean, to me, it's just like a why. It's a no brainer. Like, why wouldn't you just try it? I mean, that's how I feel about it. I mean, and that's what I did. I didn't have a clue what I was doing a year ago, and I just said, yeah, let me try this. Um, and now really understanding it more from the back end and watching other shows and other things. And I do have some clients that have already talked to me about adding live stream into their strategy for the same reason that we're just saying. Like, why wouldn't you try it? It's a low cost to entry, for one, and what I love about it is that doing a produced video. I did a webinar for a client a couple years ago. It took us 3 full days, and I mean full days of filming. And then it took, several weeks afterwards to edit. And then the before that filming, it took us a couple weeks to get the script, the outline, the slide deck. So probably 5 weeks to get prepared, then 3 full days to do it, which was exhausting. And then doing the post editing, and then, of course, review and then correct anything that was in it. And I'm not saying there's not value in doing something like that. I think there very much is a place for it. But doing a live stream, if you have a topic that you want to discuss, hey, I'm going to get a client on, they're going to say how they took my product or service and used it in their business, like as some kind of a video testimonial, if you will. Um, you prep for it, you go on, you have a conversation, it's over. You can do editing of your video afterwards to get snippets, which is great because then you can repurpose the content, which is another great thing because then the video content, you can excerpt the text, you can make it into an article. I mean, there's so many different ways to repurpose it. Um, and again, the cost and the time investment, because time is money too. It's so much less. And again, it just, to me, it's like I don't know why you wouldn't at least try it. And everyone that I've brought it up to, they're like, "Oh, that's interesting." And even young people, I've found, and when I say young people, I mean, like late 20s, early 30s, in the business world for a bit, and then being like, "Oh, I never even thought of doing that." How great you could do an event and invite more people instead of doing one-on-one Zoom calls all the time, and maybe even cast it out farther to people that would never have known about what you're doing, um, via the live. So I don't know. It's just, I think it should be part of everyone's marketing plan, and particularly if you're someone who, and I know this is a lot of people right now who are still looking for work, are struggling to get hired, and in the meantime are thinking about starting their own business, because you might as well do something while you're waiting, because unfortunately it's a long process. And another thing I do tell people to do, and what I did during 2020, I took a whole bunch of courses, like a whole bunch of up to date um, things, so I like to stay on top of my craft for one because it's constantly changing. Um, but learning how to do it during a downtime, make time to learn something new because you do have some time. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that because they're looking for work, but um, you can do something, and it may open a door that you never thought would have been there to begin with.
Yeah, I think you make so many wonderful points. And while you were talking, the advisory board, the collaboration group, mastermind, whatever you want to call it, you'll personally develop so much more because of this.
Yeah.
It's not just, the same message, but now it's amplified 100 times.
Right.
I mean, I look at the 600 shows I've done, those were with 600 people. I mean, and some of the people repeated 100 times, but even if you condense it and say, well, it was 150 unique people, all
Hmm.
those people had amazing lives, amazing backgrounds, tremendous stories, the desire to share them openly and generously. And I naturally, it's like it was a diet that you consume every day. And they say you are what you eat. If you consume stories and wonderful ideas, you're accepting those, and those are taking the place of maybe too many of your own ideas or things that you repeated so many times to get a fresh closet. And then you bring the audience in, and all the people who shared so much, supported so much, makes you feel you're doing something worthwhile. And I think that's the key. So you can benefit so many more ways than just a cash register, because I know when people initially say, oh, if I do a live stream, how do I monetize it? I think what you got to do is you got to optimize yourself to be worthy of someone wanting to hear and see more of you. And people, you know, everybody eventually says it's really how people are made to feel after a real time experience that says, I'll choose Kelly over the person I've been hanging out with on Tuesdays, or the show I was watching that I thought was good, but until I saw something that was really more important, more valuable. And I think that's the whole purpose, is it's a branding opportunity. It's
Yeah.
not a sales opportunity, but branding is marketing, because what it says is get known before you're needed. Get people aware of who you are, what you do, and they will be smart enough to know, oh, when I want to do a live stream show, who am I going to reach out to? Well,
That's
someone
right.
who's doing them, someone who's teaching them, someone who is confident they can make you successful with the same way that the vehicles made them. So Omar's here. We've got a second person. Looks like chat's working. I know you were on Omar's show. I know Omar invited my grandson to be on the kids' show. And
I love.
and that's what's important, because to be honest, nobody actually knows Omar that well until you get to actually know Omar, right? By being on his show, by inviting him on your show. And that's really the relationship. I mean, how many times you move into a neighborhood and the next door neighbor never says hello to you, or never invites you over to say hello to you. And all of a sudden you feel, I'll never get to know this person, and they'll never get to know me. And maybe that's all for the good. But when people say, hey, why don't you come on? Why don't you do this? Why don't you be that? Kelly can attest, and Harvey, in 2 days from our first call, Kelly was here. People I'll talk to today could come in tomorrow. I've invited people on the show the morning of the show. Charles Caldwell is always great. He always writes me and says, whenever I see just one person, I reach out to see if I can be the second person. So there's all that subliminal stuff. But thank you, Omar. Great guy. Somebody I would definitely work with. Eugene is here. Thank you for being here, Eugene. Comments were a little slow, but looks like they're speeding up. If anybody knows anything about Restream or LinkedIn, how to make it better, or some new ideas, please share them with the group too. Because as one of us gets better and we share it, all of us gets better with just one getting better. So let's move into that. So thank you, Eugene. I hope it is a good morning for you. Kelly, it's so much more fun when you have comments going on and you're sitting
I
there
know. Oh my
talking.
gosh. LinkedIn has just been very glitchy lately. I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. Maybe they're doing some updates we don't know about, but it's very, very annoying. Um, but yeah, Eugene, it's so good to see you. Eugene was on my show this week. And he's an incredible business and career coach with an incredible story of his own. And to go off of what you were just saying about branding, LinkedIn, our profiles are our brand. That's who you are. And so your profile is so important. And I think that was something, years ago when we first got on, LinkedIn was just really your online business card. It wasn't really a whole lot more than that, where now you have personality, you need to show who you are. And I can say 100% that doing a LinkedIn Live, doing the Hour of Empower as an example, um, and the Awesome Journey, I've gotten clients from that. Not because I'm pitching my marketing services, business services, or any of that. It's because people see me and they're like, I see you in my feed all the time, and I saw what you were doing. Would you be open to have a conversation? Sure. So individually, even if you don't have a business that you're doing something with, it can help you maybe get clients or get a job. So consider adding that also. In branding, I think a lot of people, there's still that whole myth of, is it the logo? Is it? And it's like, no, it's none. No, it's so much more than that. It's the personality behind the logo. Like, what is it? And it's your why you do that. That's why certain um, promotions or certain companies do so well, is because they've nailed their why. Just like the iPhone, when that all first came around, they crushed the market because their approach. Um, so I just thought it was important to add that whole part of our personal branding on our profiles, considering doing just a live that you would do on your topic or your business, or you're looking to partner up with people. Maybe you're looking to work with an advisory group. Hey, is somebody willing to participate? You would be surprised at how many people, when you ask, I've been asked on several people that I've known, and maybe we're more acquaintances even than friends. Um, but people feel flattered when you ask to be a part of something and beyond, and then you learn so much. Um, because if it's a new business or a new product or service, people usually don't have a lot of money to be spending on an advisory board to say, hey, I'll pay you to come quarterly. Hopefully that would come later. But I mean, that's a resource to also utilize, and that what live stream can also bring you. And I will say now that Eugene, with him being here, he does great video shorts on his profile regularly, which are so great. So check them out. And I do remind everyone, we haven't done this in a long time. Do connect with the people that are here. I do
Mhm.
still think there's an issue with comments though, and just with LinkedIn in general, because I've been seeing it on everybody else's shows too. But do connect with everyone and just reach out and ask if you're not sure. Um, so those are my thoughts at the moment.
Well, some of your thoughts are my thoughts, and my thoughts are your thoughts, because we've done like 100 shows. Our anniversary show is coming up on January 19th, and
So
I carved that out for us. And, I just actually, to your point, profile, while you're talking, I slipped in and looked at Eugene's profile, and saw how aligned he is with the things we're doing and how we can help each other. Because what you want to do is go for the low hanging fruit, go for the people already in the game, go for the people who are already doing stuff and proud of what they're doing, but also know they're on a learning curve. There's a lot yet to be learned, and there's a lot that can be learned faster together. And why not pool all those resources against a billion market? Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was just, yeah. I mean, and it's not a competition. I think people forget that there's a billion people on LinkedIn. I do not feel, I feel zero threatened by anyone who does anything else, because there's plenty of people to go around. It's just more about how are you going to stand out from the rest, and that's what I think started off with in the beginning, is don't do what everybody else is doing. Do something different. That's the pitch slap. I just can't say enough about it because I find it so annoying. And I think it's wildly ineffective. And I know some people will say, but I do get, leads from it that eventually turn into clients. But it's like, but how many did you lose? Because I guarantee you, people said, nope, I'm out. Because I'm not the only one that doesn't like the pitch slap. I don't know anyone that's like, oh my God, I love it when I go to my inbox and it's just flooded with these hard sales pitches. And then they continue. And it's always, the 2 or 3 days apart. And it's like, y'all are also using the same content. Basically, this is why I say, OpenAI is fantastic. I love it as a tool for marketing. I encourage everyone to utilize it, but use it as a tool, not as a replacement for writing, because we can tell. I mean, it's just so obvious the way that it's structured and some of the words that are used. I mean, how often do we actually say the secret sauce to your marketing brand? Like that's just not what would flow off of our tongues these days. It has to be your personality. And when your brand is confused to an audience, it's the same thing. It's off-putting. They won't be able to tell you that, ooh, I don't like that because I'm confused by what you're saying on your screen and then what your videos are. Your content feels different. They don't know that. They just aren't attracted to it. And that's the whole thing, is to attract a customer to buy. It has to hit that emotional part within them to want to do that. And the quickest way to get there is via a relationship, and not making people don't like to feel like they're one in a billion or one of the billion. They like to feel like they matter and are special. And you can make that happen. And then it goes to via your messaging and how you approach it. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I think you cover a lot of ground there. I think that people have to realize, or should realize, that it is the community you're in and that you build, which will create opportunities, will make it more fun. I mean, if all the people I'm working with dropped off, I would stop doing what I'm doing. I really would, because it wouldn't be as much fun. It wouldn't be as valuable because of the relationships, because if you're having fun with the people you're with, you're already winning with the time you're spending. If there's a big payoff or a big opportunity, well, that's all for the better. But how many people slave and deal with so unfair conditions because they're making a lot of money, right? I mean, I got to do it because the money's just too good to pass up, or I would know. And it's like, where is the happiness going to come from? Because you're paying a price, which is your authenticity, your soul in so many ways.
Yes.
And if you're passionate about something and energetic, you want to talk directly to whoever and deal directly with whatever is resisting or stopping you. And I think the more you test, and marketing is really sharing a question. I mean, that's what a poll is all about, right? It's a question. Do you like this or that? And that's the same thing with A/B testing. And what I would suggest, if you don't know, ask. It's the best, fastest way. If someone who, let's say, isn't paying their bill and someone says, well, I don't want to be like I'm too persistent or I'm too whatever. But the point is someone puts people in those situations and tests them to see how much flexibility there is. I know when you are in business, and a lot of times you'll get 30 days dating, right? You'll buy a product and you get 30 days to pay for it. And if you buy a lot of product, maybe you get 60 or 90 days to pay for it. Well, a lot of people will wait till Payable sends them a statement, or will wait until they're 30 days past due. And if nothing happens at 30, go ahead, pretty soon it goes to 60. So, my sense is, if you don't know, ask. If you have friends you can ask, that's better. But if you have people who are causing you distress and keeping you up at night, do it in the most diplomatic way, but do it. because if you don't do it, you'll feel bad and ask yourself, why aren't you doing it? So you don't want to create an issue or a conflict within yourself. You want to have that energy and that direction focused on new customers. And, reinvention and rebirth is part of marketing is, every year you got to come out with the new model, the new value add, the new benefits. Omar is saying hello to everybody. It's kind of interesting. That's the second hello. Dennis comes back with, yes, you cover a lot of ground. You're both well grounded on authentic information. And one thing I'll say for Kelly and Harvey and all other people here that we've been working together as a community, it's easier to communicate with people you've been communicating with, where they have proven themselves, you've proven yourself, that really they know the intent is to share the most, the best, the fastest to everybody. And hopefully one of two things happen. Either they have some feedback at the point, like today, if you know something about marketing, want to share it, this is an opportunity, but also to absorb and apply it to something they're doing or allows them to do and come back and share it. So it's really learning and sharing that are so key to everything.
Sorry about
Oh, not a problem. Came back just in time. I had just covered the last question. But what I love about marketing is it's so creative. We don't talk about the creative side of it. We don't talk about the wordsmithing. And I know with AI now, you've got even more support and resources. But, what I learned about AI is they say write like you talk, right?
that.
So if you're talking in a down home regular way, then that's how your writing should be. If you talk in a sophisticated
Right.
academic way and that's who you are and how you talk, you should maintain that and not try to get a group who isn't your group to come in because you're, let's say, catering to what they like. It's more important to focus on the groups, communities that are already there with you and for you. And I think the other thing about newsletters, and Carl's has opened our eyes, because one thing I know for sure, if anybody takes one area of LinkedIn and really learns it and does it every day, they will have such an ownership position over the people who don't. And what that says, I know people talk about groups, and every time you talk about groups, I say, well, it's a waste of time. I'm a member of 49 groups. I never contribute anything. Anything I see there is really the head person who is trying to facilitate. But because no one's doing it, and because LinkedIn, it's a tool, it's a product they create and maintain and support. If you can figure it out, you're going to be miles ahead. If, like I say, with Carl's newsletter, he had no idea that what I said, what has been the best benefit? He's up to almost 500 from zero, and he only has a few thousand connections. He said, this has allowed so many people from my past to show up now, right? Some people I did business with 5, 6, 3 years ago, 10 years, said, Carl, I didn't know what happened to you. Now Carl's here, right? And that's a something that works for you without you being a salesperson. To the people who use that sales pitch that you're talking about, Kelly, what the question I would love to ask them is, when's the last time you bought something based on what you just did to me? Right?
Right.
When's the last time I can get you 30,000 connections in 3 days, and you decide that's a great idea? And that's where you start to sacrifice your integrity, is when you're selling what you're not buying or using, when it's good enough for everybody because you're making money, not because they're going to get value from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where people don't want to get taken advantage of, where they knew up front it was a dead deal to begin with. It's one thing if you go to work with somebody and everybody's doing their best efforts, best intentions, and it doesn't make the grade or it misses the mark. But at least, hey, it was an honest shot. Maybe we learned something we can take with us, or maybe not. And I think people, they don't want to be taken advantage of. Most people who are trusting are also very sensitive, you know,
Mhm.
and they guard themselves from getting taken advantage of because it's not only the money, it's the pride, it's the principle, it's the you knew better and you didn't tell me, or you knew what was going to happen and you weren't telling me. So I think it's the ability to communicate honestly, heartfeltly with wherever you are, whatever live stream you go on, bring the best of you because no one cares what you do. Actually, we're
No.
talking about profile, and that's probably your number one marketing vehicle. Is everything I've heard, everything I've seen, everything I've done, just model it after what can I do for them? What do I do for you? Not who I am, where I've been.
Nobody cares. I mean,
Well, that's after the fact. If you don't, if you're not promoting what I'm looking for, I could care less after that, and you could care less about me. So
mhm.
why not use all those words? That's another thing I don't understand. If LinkedIn gives you whatever 120 characters or 250 characters for your profile, you don't have to go to the last letter, but there's more you could support what you're saying,
Mhm.
and why not use all of it up? If you're going to get someone's attention, give them as much as you can, not overload them, but tell them the benefits of it. Here's what I do for you. Here's what you can get for it, right? And basically you got a opportunity and what you can expect for a return. And you want to just build it in a way that, let's have a Zoom to discuss if you're interested. So give them that call to action. Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, just so many important points there, right? Because it's what problem do you solve for your client? That's what they care about. What are you doing for me? I don't want to know how amazing you are, and and all your data and your numbers. Again, that's following a purchase, um, to use logic to rationalize the purchase behavior. But the purchase behavior still goes back to the whole thing of it's based on an emotion, how you make them feel, if it's hitting the right thing to make them want to purchase, and what problem are you solving for them? And that is why I find the pitch slap so annoying, is because you don't even know if I have the problem. You're just saying I have the problem. And in this very long email, having it on your profile, hey, I help relieve owners from the stress of their marketing, their day-to-day marketing. That's something that small business owners would be like, oh, that's exactly what I need because I can't do marketing. Um, because again, people think it's a simple thing. And another thing you hit on there as well is inconsistency is a bad thing. I mean, you've got to be consistent, and whether it's with your messaging on LinkedIn, like there's a cadence for each platform. They're all a little bit different because Instagram is not LinkedIn or Facebook. I mean, none of them are the same. So people who are using their Instagram on a LinkedIn post, it doesn't resonate the same way. So there are strategies with all of them, but you've got to be consistent and knowing when, and I do this because I want to be consistent in what I do. When I add things to my schedule or what I haven't done before, oh, I'm going to start editing the videos. So I take out excerpts after I do a live. Um, I had to work that into my schedule till I could make it happen. Um, and not rushing it to be like, oh, this is such a good thing to add. Because when you add something and it's not consistent, it does the same thing of poor messaging. It's confusing. Um, because a lot of times people won't know, and this is the whole thing when I'm saying I've gotten a client from here, and ironically, what Carl said, it's someone that I worked with 8 years ago. And she was like, I just thought since I saw you all the time, I would reach out because I thought I need a Kelly Steinica in my organization because not many people have the expertise of um, doing institutional investor material and understanding, that their messaging. And I will say I've tried a few things on OpenAI just for grins because I think some people think they won't need to hire people to write things anymore. And I've dropped in I would say, sophisticated content and asked it to rewrite it, it doesn't rewrite it correctly. You still have to understand the context of all the messaging, and it flipped it around where it was like, this is wrong. It's not even just that it's sort of off. And I'm like, but if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. You would just put it and be like, oh, OpenAI did it. This is great content. Well, it might be, but it's not correct. So, and I've tried that quite a few times with other things to see if it knows how to interpret more sophisticated or complex thoughts and or products, and it does not. It does not good at all. So I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, that's where I see really needing a strategist
Yeah.
to really put together something so when you do use OpenAI, it knows the more specific with it you can be, the better it serves you. So if you just say add emojis, you can pretty much trust it to do that in a really good way and probably find things you wouldn't have. And it's a time saver. So what you want to do is save time, not sacrifice quality.
That's
And
right.
it's so easy to get lazy, right? Because, hey, they'll write 6 paragraphs and that becomes spaghetti against the wall in that way. So instead of a pitch slap that's delivered to you in a message, this is a newsletter slap that's delivered with you with overflowing information, detail to the extent that it doesn't make sense. And then it gets into really just over exaggeration that doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Attract audience that will find you to be the most fantastic in the universe. I mean, something like that where it should just be attractive to audiences. But you need a sounding board. You need unbiased, uninvested eyes and ears. And usually they're the best coming from friends, colleagues, associates. I mean, we've gotten to know individuals like Khan, Dave, and all of them are going through different phases of their LinkedIn journey, of their live stream journey. And it's great to know that what you learned, maybe even what you paid for, you can share with somebody to save them that payment, that lesson. And really the key thing is people are smart. They just need more understanding. So anybody will say, yeah, I'm in for better, faster, easier, more friendship and everything else. How does that work? And why should I invest? And, consistency, we always talk as being primary, but with consistency comes confidence of commitment. If you know for sure you're going to get there, if you keep driving this road, wherever there is, if traffic got busy, if something happened, got slowed up, you're never going to lack your confidence that I'm going to get there sooner or later today. If you're going home, you believe your home is going to be there and you believe your car will get you. Anything in the meantime is what you deal with. On LinkedIn is the same thing. You have to identify, is this a long-term issue or a short-term? Like we talk about, LinkedIn's getting kind of finicky. Certain things aren't working, but I know that's a temporary situation. And the other thing that's so important, focus on what you can control, focus on the future. The people who don't do as well, focus on the past, which is already over, and focus on uncontrollable situations. I mean, pick up any news feed. It won't take you many stories to find yourself really unhappy, depressed, and angry if you read enough of what's going on in areas, situations that you can't control. And it's like protect the people who you can, take care of the people who are there to take care of you, and collectively you'll weather the storm faster than someone who has no roots, has no belief, and has no confidence, because they're the ones chasing rainbows all the time and never getting to the pot of gold. So marketing is really making a statement that's important to you and even more important to the person you're sharing it with. You can't expect people to give you before you give them, and even then you can't expect anything in return. So it's almost a double step backwards, is that I'll give without expecting something in return until I earn it, until people find that I deserve it. And the other thing is, your time frame is not their time frame.
That's right.
They may be perfectly happy with you and everything you do, and you'll be the first person they call. Might be a year from now, might be 6 months from now. But what's so cool about Carl, and we'll kind of close it up, is he's seeing the light. He's experiencing the benefit, even from the newsletter before he gets to his live stream. Now he's sharing it with all his companies he's affiliated with, I think about 10 companies, on why they should do something like this also. And I think that's, if you can prove yourself to best friends and colleagues, their success will be your testimonial and their case history. And if it's that good, then a lot of people oversampled, got overserved, got over success for very little. But doesn't that happen all the time? If you were the first person to buy Apple stock, or Google stock when it was really just getting going, I saw somewhere where if you put, I think, $1,000 into Apple, it'd be worth like $10 million today. And I'm not saying this is Apple and it's going to be worth 10 million, but it is life changing. It is game changing. And I think if people really want to reinvent themselves and have hope for the future, it's through community and communication. So Kelly, we're at top hour. I mean, it's so great to talk to an experienced but really innovative, creative marketing individual. And I think that's important when people share that with other people, of how they know you and how they see things over time naturally from you, that didn't get forced or sold or strategized. And trust is everything, because trust will allow someone to say, yeah, that is out of balance, let's make it right. It's the person who always says, hey, I saw something, let's make it right. And it's like, I didn't even know that was happening, right? That you're doing way too much and I'm not doing enough, let me pick up the slack. Where you're on
introspection, though, right? I think that takes so much introspection and self-awareness. And there's a lot of people that don't have that. They don't see that they're not doing as much, or they don't see that maybe they should change things. So I think but that's another reason why you need to have yourself surrounded by people that you trust, that can give you the honest feedback that you need. I think, even if you have family members getting involved saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? This is what I put together. Choose wisely, because, some family members are probably going to tell you everything you do is amazing, just because they love you and they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they really don't know. You need somebody maybe that's got a different level of experience to be able to look at it from a different perspective. Feedback is the best thing we can have to be not just better as individuals, but better with our business. That's what we need to hear. The negative things, or the hard things, I don't like to say they're negative, because they should lead to a positive, because that's how you get better. And really, just sort of is to wrap up, even with just marketing in general and branding, is don't be afraid to start. I mean, I think I see a lot of people, and I have friends that have been trying to start a business for 18 months and they're still in design phase. And I'm just like, y'all either need to let me look at it and tear it apart, or not tear it apart, because maybe it's already amazing, but you're going nowhere. And you probably should have just paid for somebody to do it on the front end, because now all this time that's gone by and you missed, the holiday season and all of those things. Because we can get in our own way, particularly when we are starting to create something, and then can be a little intimidated or afraid to get negative feedback, because we don't like criticism. But when you look at it as a way of, I want to bring the best thing to market. And if you look at it that way, God, thanks, Dawn, for giving me that. This is going to be so much better now, instead of like, oh man, like that hurt, because you take it personal. It's not personal. Like it's the best thing to do. So, yeah. So those are my final thoughts on marketing. And I know we're a little after. And yeah, so super fun. Can't believe it's going to be a year next week. But if y'all have any questions about live streaming, you definitely need to reach out to one or both of us for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I want to close with is that when you go to where your core is, where your roots are, and I love coming back to business because that's been my background. It really hasn't been LinkedIn. I mean, in business, I did some marketing, but yesterday's conversation with Carl on business and really getting into that, and today with Kelly. And one of the things I'd love to do is, Kelly's such a wonderful resource for marketing, and I've got some background. I know we know other people who are right up there with us, is have more events, because this really deserves more than an hour. I mean, it'd be great to have how to do live streaming workshop, how to do LinkedIn marketing workshop with 3 or 4 people on a Saturday or an afternoon or a Friday or whatever it is. And really take this year from last year, because officially I only count from when I started with Kelly as being the show. Everything up to that was kind of rehearsal, learning a few months before that. And that really, when I look back, was when 1-hour shows became the regular thing. Up until then, it was 8 minutes, 16, 30, sometimes 40. But now, and it was a year of learning, growing. It was about mindset, attitude. This is about all that this year, but now who's going to work? Who wants to do something together? The time, like Kelly says, is here. Any more trust or likability we need, we'll find on the way, or we shouldn't have to look for it. Now it's who wants to work with each other. And now there's even that confidence as that, hey, I have the ability to take and help someone become in a place they never thought they'd be, or never thought they'd be again. I mean, Harvey will be this, Kelly, myself will say this has been wholly changing. And if you were to tell me the day before I did this what my thought process is, what my future looked like, where I was trending, and now ask me where am I now, it had nothing to do with extending that plan, but replacing it with a much better plan based on much better people who are not family. You're right. Family members will do one or two things: either steal your dream, and that's what they call them, dream stealers, is they'll tell you 100 reasons why you're not equipped. You're not that type of person. You shouldn't do it because of their fears and challenges. Or you'll find the people that are way too supportive of you, and no matter what you say, oh, you'll do great. I know you'll do great. Everything you do is great. And you don't want to disturb those relationships. And that's why going outside and meeting new people who don't have any history with you, who are going to be as honest, hopefully, as possible, are so appreciated. And, if they tell you stuff, no one else in the family has to know it, or if you tell them stuff, it doesn't go back to everybody. So, you feel a little bit more safe in confidentiality, especially if it's a technical or thing like that. So we're a lot over actually, now that I look. Thank you for anybody who stuck with us this long, and look forward to having you back tomorrow. Tomorrow's an interesting show for sure. Just to give you a quick, we've got Julian Roberts and another gentleman who's amazing, who just writes copyright. So he'll tell you about that stuff. Thank you again. See you tomorrow.